ballot. And look, right now we know that we have to go out there and win a bunch of races in November 2026, flip the power in
Mm,
Congress, and then actually keep the pressure on to make sure we pass some of these needed changes come next congressional session.
mm-hmm. And how do you pick candidates to sponsor?
That is a great question, and we are both working on working with candidates at the federal level, but also the state level, and we look to see, are they aligned on our
Hmm.
issues. And this cycle, we actually started a campaign called Unrig Washington, a catchy name, right? And it's
Right.
candidates have to say that they agree to three simple things: that they agree to a stock trading ban. Because look, if you are a member of Congress,
Right.
you should your own pocket off of insider information. You go to do a public service and to serve the public. You shouldn't be just worried about your portfolio. So, stock trading ban, number one. Number two, don't take corporate PAC money. This should be easy, right? We need
Mm.
to make sure voters understand that their elected officials are working for them and not just these big special interests and corporations who can write a big check. And then the third is to end the dark money in our politics. Because what we've seen is that actually there's a ton of money coming
Mm.
into our that you don't actually know where it started from. We can't trace it back. So we know that there's been foreign money in our elections. We know that there's been foreign governments meddling in our
Wow.
elections. But we have got to stop the dark money. So we have over 130 candidates running on these issues. That will continue to grow as the cycle moves on. And for folks who are watching, you can go to unrigwashington.org and check out who is or isn't already signed
Yeah.
up as committed to it. And please ask every candidate you talk to whether or not they've signed
Right.
up for.
Right, because I mean, because that's what I believe that, like we were starting the conversation, that that's really the core issue, and everything else is just trappings around, this basic rot in our system, of getting money out of politics. Because if we didn't have money in politics, we wouldn't have a Donald Trump right now, and
That's right.
yeah, it's the truth. I mean, he would find some other grift somewhere else. That's for sure. So I was wondering how many Republicans are in your, are there any in your
Uh,
wheelhouse?
well, look, I separate Republican members of Congress or Republican candidates
Right.
right now, Republican voters across the country. Because here's what we know: about 85% of Americans think that there's too much money in politics, think that corruption is a huge problem in our system, and want to change it. And that includes Republicans and independents and Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
The only partisan is on Capitol Hill. And that's because right now the Republican Party has decided that it can win more elections by catering to the biggest special interest, right?
Mm.
And to others. So, there are on the stock trading ban, there are actually some really good bipartisan efforts that are moving through both the Senate and the House on stock trading ban. There have been a couple of Republican members who have been willing to not take corporate PAC
Hmm.
money, but and the party as a whole has blocked these efforts, and they've had the opportunity to pass them every
Wow.
single cycle, the Citizens United decision, but instead they've blocked them.
Right.
And
Wow.
block it when we had a Democratic trifecta. So we need to
Right.
make sure that they and that people are going to hold them accountable at the ballot box.
Right, because this decision passed in 2010, like you said. So
Yes.
we've been through Democratic presidents, and we've had power in the past. How come there hasn't been movement on this as much as we would like? Let's say.
Yeah, I mean, when we last had a governing trifecta in 2021, this was actually a comprehensive democracy reform bill was the number one agenda of the Democrats in both the House and the Senate. So it was labeled as HR1 and S1,
Mm.
respectively. And so, and it was a bill that would have done four simple things. It would have made sure that no matter where you lived or who you are, you had the same access to vote. It would have stopped the gerrymandering that we see,
Hmm.
and it would have banned mid-decade gerrymandering like what we're seeing this cycle. It would have started to get money out of politics. It wouldn't have all the way overturned Citizens United, but there was a whole lot that it would do, including making sure that the money spent was disclosed and transparent, all the way overturned that the Federal Elections Commission could work and actually be a cop on the beat. And then it would have cracked down on the corruption that we were seeing.
Right.
We passed it through 5 times, but the Senate has a filibuster to overcome, and we could not
Mm.
get a single Republican to sign on to it or to not
Wow.
filibuster. And
Wow.
so all of the Democrats actually co-sponsoring it, but we only had 50. We only had 50 votes, so the filibuster was a real problem in blocking it.
That's incredible when you think about it, because you would think that the members of Congress and the senators would also, they would want to, if they're really working for the American people, they would want to get that monkey off their back, having to
Yeah,
constantly fundraise, because we all know they dial for dollars. That's primarily how they spend their time, right? They have to go to
yeah.
some other location and just call up rich people all day and beg for money. And that's disgusting. So how did we
And it's
ever
not
expect?
fun. It's
Right.
not fun. Yeah.
Yeah. How did we expect to have anything decent? That, of course, this country is operating for the rich. And I was a couple of weeks ago on my show, we were discussing the Oxfam report that just came out
Mhm.
about how, America is basically an oligarchy now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not, we're not heading there, we're there. And
Yeah.
that, money in politics is the root of this, and how, of course, they're talking about how do we get it back. And I believe what you're doing is it's one of the pivotal mechanisms to get it back, to get this. But it just so to me, it's shocking and disappointing that this isn't a groundswell. Yeah, and Citizens United, right? It's great. You have 4 million members. That's amazing. But why aren't there 300 million members? Why is it, you know what I mean? It's frustrating to me. And I think
Uh,
it's propaganda. It's but anyway, you could speak to that if you can,
I
really.
think it's Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, when someone is elected to Congress, they're on the House side at least, the very first thing they're told isn't like what committees they're going to belong to or what policy
Mm.
they need to go study. It is that they need to start doing 30 hours of call time every week just for their reelection campaign, right? They just got elected.
Mm-hmm.
Very first thing they're told is keep doing call time, do 30 hours a week. And that means that they can't do the things that we actually need them to do. They can't do things like go to hearings and learn about legislation or form relationships with their colleagues across the aisle or go meet with constituents because they're doing so much fundraising.
Right.
It really our legislative system. However, I think that there is also if you have succeeded in this broken system, it
Mm.
is hard to the broken system, right? And so anytime that we are doing these big reform pushes, you butt up against the fact that whoever is in office right now has actually benefited from this broken system, and it can to get them to commit to that change. We are going to keep trying because it is the right thing to do and because I believe that we will be successful. And then to your other point of why do we have 4 million members? Why isn't it 40 million? And, from your lips, I
Yeah.
would love 40.
Right.
I actually think part of it is because of the cynicism that the money in politics
Right.
creates. The sense that, like, my voice doesn't matter anyway. Why should I bother voting? Why should I bother
Mm.
calling my member of Congress? Nobody's looking out for me. Nobody cares about my day to day life anyway. So I think that cynicism and that lack of
Wow.
trust and
Yeah.
faith government then doubles down to keep people from being in the fight, right? Because they're like, nothing's going to change anyway. And I feel
Right.
like voters saying, I want change for at least 20 years, right? They have been saying, please fix the system as their lives kept getting harder and harder and things kept getting more and more expensive. And we are now in a real crisis moment around these issues. And we're seeing kind of the most brazen corruption we've ever seen in our
Yep.
country's.
Yeah, they don't even hide it anymore. I mean,
Oh, no.
it's unbelievable what
I
that
mean,
Donald Trump
this,
$3 billion richer in 10 months, or
uh,
not well, a year now, but it's
yeah.
incredible.
And the one that came out today, what,
Oh yeah,
uh,
with the
took a
Saudis.
with the South that they took a 49% stake in his crypto thing, but oh, he didn't know. And
Right.
in chips, right? They got access to some very sensitive
Oh,
manufacturing
that's
process.
right. That's right. I mean, he's
Yeah,
just in league with all our enemies, all of the enemies of democracy all over the world. And
yeah,
him yesterday saying well, Democrats, I mean, not Democrats, Republicans should take over 15 states, elect the control of the elections in 15 states. Of course, we know what he's talking about. It's shocking, and it's, well, I shouldn't be
and
shocked
it's
anymore, but
uh, we shouldn't be, and we have to take all of these threats seriously because he's shown
yes,
us over and
yes,
over how anti-democratic he is, how authoritarian he is, and what he will do to hold on to power at all costs, right?
yep,
And so the threat of nationalizing the elections is a threat that we all have to take really, really seriously.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Voter suppression bill that the White House is really pushing for, the Save Act. It would disenfranchise tens of millions of voters. We have to keep standing up and fighting out and fighting back on this.
That's right. But do you get help, let's say, from the so-called liberal media? I mean, there is no liberal media. This is the liberal media. You're looking at it. But the corporate media, because one of my other big issues is the fact that the media, we have these silos of information. That's why we're in this boat, money and politics, and the silos of information. And even, so we have Fox News, which is not news, it's propaganda, as we know. It makes its viewers less informed than those who watch no news at all. And then we have corporate media that is really not doing us any favors either. I mean, there are some shining lights, but they certainly don't really focus on the issues that we really need to focus on, like something like we're talking about, like money and politics, like getting it out of. They don't. I mean, the middle class slipped below 50% of the population during Trump's first maladministration for the first time in generations, and it didn't even make a blip on the corporate media. It's like this is all, this backsliding it's presented as inevitable, and it's normal too. So I just wonder what do you, as far as leverage against, I mean, because we're playing in the bounds of the system that we are having to endure at this point. So what leverage do you have for, let's say, recruiting other members of Congress and senators, and even with the Supreme Court, this
Ugh,
horrible Supreme Court? My God.
horrible Supreme Court,
Yeah.
corrupt and captured and
Yep.
bought off by. Look, I think that there are kind of three separate parts of that question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that there are some networks that do a better job talking about some of these issues and making those connections than others. Obviously, MS Now has been better about it. And we constantly are pushing to try to make sure it is tied to as many of these breaking stories as possible. Like, how do
Right.
we keep like the ICE and CBP, just atrocities that we've been seeing over these past months, and especially in Minneapolis. There is a direct tie back to the private prisons of Geo Group and Core Civic and the billions and billions of dollars that they got to create these detention facilities
Yeah.
in the big betrayal bill as well. And so, how do we make those connections, right? Like, how do we keep educating people that this all circles back? The other thing is that we have seen much more. platforms like yours, right? Where we can actually get out there and get on podcasts and get on
Mm-hmm.
Substack, other things, and keep the message going. The other thing that we do is we go do a ton of town halls. We go in person to people. Let's go talk to people on the ground.
Right.
And such an effective way to connect with real people, to hear how they're feeling about this, and also to get out the information. And then your kind of second question of like, how do we recruit people in Congress? I mean, the great news is that most of the Democrats are with us, and
Right.
we're going to try to figure out Republicans that'll join for any pieces of this that they will. And the Supreme Court, I think the voters, the American people, are understanding that the Supreme Court, we've seen scandal after scandal after scandal, and that the Supreme Court is no longer this kind of independent judiciary that is calling balls and strikes and really decisions based
Right.
on the, it's now just another partisan political arm. And so I think that there's real support for reforming the Supreme Court. And I think we have to start with
Mm.
refusal and transparency and a gift ban and things like term limits as well.
Yeah, and expanding the court, like you said, and
Yeah.
it's just yeah. And this court is much worse than the court that passed Citizens
Yes.
United too. So it's I mean, what was their justification on in that ruling? Can you
Um,
explain?
it's pretty laughable. I will explain it, but it's pretty laughable. Uh, so their ruling was twofold. Number one, that all of this independent spending on behalf of candidates would be done without it being
Oh, right.
coordinated.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
truly, and I think we all know how laughable that is. Let's just look at Elon Musk spending $280 million or whatever it was to
Right.
get Donald Trump. Obviously, that wasn't independent. The Donald Trump and the Trump campaign knew everything he was doing and everything he was spending, and then he was rewarded with this, kind of carte blanche over our federal government, and was rewarding himself with no big contracts. So, like we know,
Mm.
this test doesn't even pass the smell test. The other one is even more laughable, if that's possible. Disclosure and transparency, and therefore, because it was fully disclosed and transparent, it couldn't be corrupting. I think that number one, what we know is money can be corrupting whether or not it's fully disclosed and transparent. We have seen that. And number two, actually, what we've seen is an explosion of undisclosed money in our system. I'll give one stat.
Mhm.
Prior United, you could trace back about 75% of the spending in our elections back to the original source. So, like, back to the original donor. And now, on the independent outside spending side, it's the opposite. You can only trace back about 25%. 75% is what we call dark or gray money. So, we're not sure where it actually originates from. That is staggering, right? Staggering.
Right. Right. Wouldn't that be that seems like a national security issue to me, and you would think that's on the breaking news, and the American people would be outraged if they really understood, right? I mean, I don't understand how there isn't more. This isn't like I'm saying, the breaking news on the top story on every newscast, because everything else that comes with it is just like a band-aid on a bleeding artery. And
Yeah.
what even the Supreme Court, there's because there are people who pick their issues, like, oh, I'm going to do money in politics or whatever they are passionate about, or I'll focus on fixing the court and all that. But without getting rid of money in politics, the court can just rule on some other ridiculous way, because they're there, it seems, not to, like you're saying, old balls and strikes, John Roberts, right? That's what he said. He was going to call balls and strikes. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
but
not true.
right, right. It's a joke. I don't know how they
Yeah.
look at themselves in the mirror, but they're all about fixing the facts around the policy. That's it. They just come up with, and they're not even trying anymore, especially this court. they don't even have to. They're doing all this. What do they call that? They, shadow docket now.
Shadow
They don't.
docket.
Yeah, they're not even bothering to grace us with an opinion anymore. They'll or sign their names. It's just absolutely offensive. But yeah, I don't understand how they can, look themselves in the mirror but I guess is it really? I guess it just with this ruling, it was like ringing the dinner bell for all
Hmm.
the corrupt actors all over the world to come feed on the corpse of the American experiment. It seems, and it's really depressing. But I'm grateful that you're fighting. And you've been. How long have you been with Citizens United?
10 years, 10 years.
Oh, you've
So,
been there. Wow, a long time.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
We started years ago, and we've built this up, and it is the people and the members that we have that give me hope when we are up against the kind of mountain that you were just talking about, right? It is, there's no doubt about it. The work we are doing day in and day out is hard. And yet, I know that the American people are with us. And I know that there are so many folks out there who just want their government to work for them, who just want it to be the democracy it's supposed to be. And I believe it's worth fighting for. And so we're not going to give
Yeah.
up,
Right. Right.
keep building it. And so we've been for 10 years, and we're going to keep going.
But yeah, I mean, we can't give up. That's why I'm here. That's why you're doing what you're doing. But it just seems like you're saying, progressives, Americans in general are exhausted, and
Yeah.
it seems, and cynical, like you're saying. And, you know, if somebody, what would you say to people, if they give you, volunteer, say, where would you volunteer? What would you want the American people, to focus their energy to
You
help
know,
you pull the levers, let's say? Yeah.
I get asked this a lot, like, what else can folks do? And so first and foremost, go to endcitizensunited.org and check us out. We would love to have you in the fight. And we provide lots of volunteer activities for folks. But courage is contagious. And I think that however you can show up in this fight, we need you. And if you want to go protest, please go protest. The person standing next to you might need that just little jolt of courage that you're going to get them to keep standing there and to show up the next time. Making members of Congress, writing emails to members of Congress, writing letters to the editor, sending postcards to voters to encourage them to go
Right.
vote, making sure that you're voting, making sure your family and friends are voting. Get involved on campaigns, especially the more local level
Yeah.
campaigns and more directly connected to you are a great way to get involved. And they always need volunteers because it is really hard to staff those campaigns. So to me, this is always about like, you don't have to do everything. There's not a
Yeah.
single one of us where this fight is on our shoulders alone. We can bear this fight by doing it together and by showing up in the way that you can at any given point in time.
Yeah. It's not that you have to do everything, just do something, right?
That's right. That's,
Yeah, it's
use
true.
your voice, speak out, call into a show, write something on
That's
Facebook.
right.
Like, just
Yeah.
keep speaking.
Right. That's what I always say too when people in our families and whatnot, for me, that's probably why I do the show too. But I can't let things just lie in the floor and unchallenged. When somebody says something that's not true or something that they hear on Fox News, I just can't let it lay there. To stink up the room because that's what happens. People, this is how misinformation and cynicism too spreads, which I
Yeah.
guess one of the good things we're seeing is even though all of what I think people are getting out there in spite of their lives are on the line now. We know that, we're in they're murdering people in the streets stage. And the response has been encouraging because there's courage there. And I think that the American people We don't want to be ruled by kings or
That's
billionaires.
right.
That's the other thing too with the money and politics. I think that it's hard to for people a lot. This is what I get on my show too, because I'll get right wingers coming into the chat or whatever, and they'll start, they praise billionaires. It really gets on my nerves. They to me, they're not seeing the forest through the trees. We shouldn't have billionaires. That's a symptom of a sick system. I think they can get off just fine with, I don't know, 200 million maybe.
Hundreds of
Yeah,
millions.
you'll be all right. And but there's this fanboy aspect to looking up to these parasites, really. And I just, wonder about that, overcoming that. And I mean, because there has to be successes beyond election night, because we only have that every few years, right? And but can you tell us for your organization, how do you measure success beyond election nights? Like, what's your metric in unrigging the system? Not where are we just not swapping out one politician for another, let's say, right? That's what people will say, right? Don't you think?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
cynics will
Well,
say. Of course, there are some politicians are better than others, of course, but yeah.
Uh, absolutely, absolutely. I think that number one, we're gonna judge our success on whether or not we get some of these needed reforms passed. Whether it is, the anti-corruption measures, the ethics kind of infrastructure, the ways that we can begin to get money out of politics, the
Hmm.
anti-gerrymandering efforts,
Right.
all of these pieces need to be passed, and we need to rebuild basically the guardrails of our democracy, and that's going to take time. And also, we know that we're building support for that every single day. And then there's also really good stuff happening at the state level. Different states are passing disclosure and transparency laws. They're passing voting rights acts within their state. They are passing anti-corruption efforts within their states. And we will continue to work with those states to pass and implement these policies as well. So at both the federal and we're gonna judge our success on that. But I think that the other thing that we have seen is that, yes, I think people have held up billionaires as a shining example of success.
Right.
I think a little bit less as everyday people are struggling more and more. And when you pass a bill that gives, $5 trillion of tax break to billionaires and the biggest corporations, while everyday Americans are seeing their prices go up, seeing their
Yep.
tax rates go, right?
Yeah, losing their health care, losing their
yeah,
jobs,
we have
all that.
we have started regulations for less, right? So
Right. True.
I think that we are back in kind of a moment like the Gilded Age, where
Oh, yeah.
the wealth is concentrated in the hands of very few people. And in the course of our nation's history, we have fought back against that, and the people have won. And I believe that'll be true again.
So, what do you think? I know that he's trying to weaken the Federal Election Commission even more, like we were saying earlier. He's trying, floating this trial balloon. That's what he's doing. Is just he's signaling his next move. He's never. I mean, he's a filthy fascist liar, of course, pathological sociopath parasite. Tax cheating, draft dodging, wannabe dictator, con man. But he has always kind of signaled his next move, right? And of course,
True.
every accusation is a confession with him, of course. So they're going to try to steal this next election. And I mean, he is weakening, he's threatened the independence of the FEC, of course, and other oversight bodies, right? So, what do we do with this? I guess well, I mean, what do you think? What do you think?
Well, I mean, what they have done to the Federal Elections Commission is really horrible. I mean, the Federal Elections Commission was already kind of dysfunctional, and for those who don't follow, the Federal Elections Commission is responsible for being the cop on the beat, enforcing our campaign finance laws, at least the few that we have left on
Mm,
the book.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and when Donald Trump got into office, I mean, one of the very first things he did was fire Ellen Weintraub, who had been the previous chair of the FEC and had been on the FEC for over 20 years and is just such a voice for good on these issues and was not afraid to take him on directly. And so, of course, she got fired. And
Wow.
then Republican commissioners retired or left their position. And so it has not had a functioning quorum in 9 months, right? So if there is a complaint that's filed, there's no investigation happening, there's no decisions being put out, there's just nothing happening. And that's what Donald Trump and this administration want. They want
Yeah.
no. They fired 17 inspectors general.
Wow.
They have been meddling in all of the independent agencies, whether it is the SEC or the FTC or the Fed Reserve Board or the FEC. So many acronyms, so little time. And because they want nobody telling them how much grift they are allowed to line their pockets with, right? And so I think it is a real problem. To absolutely why we need to both reform the FEC and make sure it is actually truly independent and able to function.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
and
But
it,
what can we do though with this? I guess.
well, we have to win
Yeah.
in November.
Right.
First and foremost,
That's. Yeah.
to win. That is the way we begin to put checks on this administration. And then we can actually pass the reforms that we need to in order to strengthen some of these guardrails, including reforming the FEC, which can be done with a simple majority vote of Congress. So, but the first and foremost is we have to win in November.
Right. Which is so keeps me up at night sometimes because we know they're
Me
going to
too.
try to steal it. They're going. I know we will win, and this is what's so depressing too, that we have been under the tyranny of the minority for generations, for my entire life. It feels like so. Yeah, because the system it really is tilted to keep this minority in power, this conservative minority. Even the first maladministration, Trump was in office despite receiving fewer votes. I mean,
Mhm.
it's when you think about, America, we already elected a woman president. We elected Hillary Clinton. She received more votes, right? But
Yep.
we had the baboon instead of, a competent female. And then with Harris, I mean, it makes me want to weep, really, every single
Yeah.
day. And with him stealing the ballots in Georgia, you know,
Mhm.
do you know anything about that? What's going on with that? Sure.
I mean, the same that you do, right?
Right. Okay.
Directly continuing his attack on our election infrastructure and on the integrity of our elections, right? And it's continuing to push the same false claims that have been thrown out of court over 60 times and that have
Mm-hmm.
sense. And it's weaponizing and using the power of both the Department of Justice and the federal government to try to intimidate and silence, and to your point,
Yeah.
steal election. And so, he continues to lose in court on this. We are all going to continue to fight back, and we have to continue to speak up and push back, because what we see is that in these moments where we are all coming together and all amplifying, the atrocities and the horrors that we are seeing, there are times that this administration does have to pull back. So we have had success. We need to continue to keep our foot on the gas as it comes to that. And I
Hmm.
think you're right. It's a trial balloon. They are trying to see what they can get away with, and we can't
Yeah.
let them get away.
That's right. And I guess it all depends too when these things happen. I know that they're in court now as far as them stealing the ballots from Georgia. that now they're in court. But then it all depends on what judge, you
Hmm.
get. That's what's so disgusting, because they have packed the courts with all of these Trump flunkies. And, I always say that's exactly what the Nazis did. I know people back in the day, they would say, oh, don't ever mention Nazis, then you look like a kook. But you know what I mean? They would have this whole Godwin's Law thing, which really drove me
Hmm.
mad. The first person who mentions Nazis supposedly loses the argument, but it was like, they are Nazis. I mean, like, you don't
Yeah,
start with with the death camps, the 85 million dead. You start with what they're doing, packing the courts, and that's what they were doing. That's what the Nazis did when they were slowly taking over the Weimar Republic. They started
that's right.
packing the courts with their loyalists. So whenever there was a crime, it would go in front of a Nazi judge that would completely nullify it, including up to and including murder. So there's shades of history. Of course, we have to learn from history. It's otherwise, here we are. It's really
Yeah.
unbelievable that I know because when I was a kid, my father was a big World War II buff, so we used to watch a lot of World War II documentaries and all that, and I always felt distanced from it, though, and I felt lucky that I was living in a free country. I was like, oh, I'm so lucky that I don't have to go through something like that. But here we are. It's so, it's so prophetic. And unfortunately, because of money in politics and the silos of information, so many people voted for it. It's so shocking to me how millions, even though Trump, is a baboon, how do you, no offense to baboons, of course, he's,
Right. I mean, that feels.
baboons. He's just such a devolved, horrible, no redeeming quality person that I don't understand how anyone can look at that and say, yeah, send that to represent me on the world stage. Like, how much do you have to hate yourself to send a baboon to, a tax cheating? I mean, everything. It's
Yeah.
so baffling to me. And that's why, money in politics, there's really no other way to explain it besides, the money in politics, because that really does. But actually, it's it gives them a bigger microphone. But there has been instances. This is what they'll point to too. I'm sure, like when Elon Musk poured that all his money into certain races and they still lost. And they'll point to it. Oh, see, it doesn't. How do you speak to that, right? Because they don't
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
win.
They don't always win. Actually, the fact that Elon Musk put $20 million into
Right.
that Wisconsin race and then lost by 10 points is great. It shows
Yeah.
that money can't buy everything, but money is able to buy way too much. And I think in the past few days there has been this whole kind of analysis of big industries and what they're putting into super PACs and Meta.
Yes. Oh God.
Mark. Right, they have started a super PAC that I think has almost $80 million or something in it right now. The crypto industry has 190 million already ready to go for November 2026. We're talking monstrous amounts of money that they're going to flood into our elections
Wow.
just to get the that they want at the end of the day, keeping no regulation, making sure they're not held up accountable for the damage that they cause, being able to get, industry friendly tax bills done. And it's all a return on investment for them, right? Like, this isn't about democracy. This is about, putting in money so that they can get a bigger profit at the end of the day. And, you
Right.
know, looking at this report that said that corporate profits are the highest percentage that they've been in like 100 years.
Right.
So, there are people winning this game right now. It just isn't the American people.
Wow. Yeah, it's true. And you have to ask, how much more do you need? Because they, like you're
Exactly.
saying, exactly. They're not. They're smashing unions. They want a corrupt government to make sure that they could step on our necks and we don't have the ability to say anything about it. And it really is about not, you know, denying, well, it's about denying the American people a seat at the table, and they're just divvying us up, like, you know, their meals, really. And it's, well, as we see in the Epstein files too, that's exactly, I mean, what they do. They don't think of us as humans. There's, you know, we're just hosts from which to suck profit and discard. And it's disgusting that,
Yeah,
and this is part of, I think, you know, the message that we have to get out too, is because, you know, it's, oh, they've done it for, you know, since recorded history, since we crawled out of the primordial ooze. I'm sure they were pitting one against another, really. And so it's about, you know, denying us or dividing us so we don't point our fingers or anger where it actually belongs, to the people
right.
like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, when we get to the end of this, or the other side, I hope that we don't forget that they collaborated with
That's right.
evil, with this evil fascist regime, for what? And just like,
For profit, for money.
well, yeah, but I mean, it's like you already, and that's the other thing, like we were just saying, you know, what I hope the American people are waking up to too, because it's like we have to ask ourselves this question: what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of an economy? Is it to make a few people very rich? And that's what they want us to think, that's the meaning of an economy. No, it shouldn't be that, because we're only here this blip of time. We're sharing the same blip of time together. And, you know, there's enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed, as Gandhi said. So that's why we all have to get on, have this paradigm shift, or in the zeitgeist, let's say, of understanding that an economy is there to serve everybody, not just the Zuckerbergs. And they should all be ashamed of
Yeah.
themselves, really,
I
you
mean,
know?
it, it used to be that there was an understanding that collectivism was a good thing, that actually a rising tide lifts all boats,
Yes.
and that helped us form the strongest and most expansive middle class that the world has ever seen. And that led to more productivity and more creation and more innovation.
Yes.
But it also was during that time, you know, I love the story of, to go down a little bit of a rabbit
No,
hole,
great.
Eastman. Right. It back in the 1970s, it was considered a local company that invested in the community. If you and there's this great story about how someone who was a janitor, started as a janitor at Eastman Kodak, was able to take advantage of the benefits that the company had, and tuition reimbursement, and go to college, and get her worked her way up all the way to CFO of the company, right? At the same time that the company was reinvesting in employees and actually doing things like a pension, and expanding healthcare and investing in the community. And look, there was plenty that they were still doing wrong as well, but there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of stuff. And now those none of that is even possible, right? With a company like that, there's no longer a pension. Janitors are now 990 contract employees and not actually
Right.
like with benefits. They have cut things like tuition reimbursement and other things. And it's all about eking out, cutting as many jobs as possible, and eking out as much shareholder profit as possible, as if somehow that is the measure of a successful
Right.
corporation. Shareholder profit there is, rather than are we building community together, right?
Right.
And I don't buy this belief that the only thing we care about, or can care about, or should care about is shareholder profit. I believe that we owe more to each other than that.
I agree. And I hope that the American people, you know, get on board with that, because this is one of the things I keep telling the Democrats, and you know, in the halls of power, the elected people that I encounter, that we have to get the message back. I mean, there's nothing more progressive than pledging your life, fortune, and sacred honor to each other. And I mean, that seems damn woke to me. I don't know about you. And the founders gave us a motto, e pluribus unum, out of many one. So it's not I got mine, sucks to be you, or better luck next life. It's
Right.
we're in this together, and I
Yep.
think the American people, maybe this, I hope this time will wake them up to this, that there's more to life than money. I mean, that's what's so ironic, that I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like, they pretend to be Christians too, and they while robbing everyone blind, and they got all the earthly rewards cornered, right? We get our heavenly rewards, I suppose, right? But yeah. All right. Well, it's been amazing talking to you. Can you
This has been
just,
so great.
yeah, thank you, and tell everyone what give them the
Yeah,
marching
yeah.
orders, what we need them to do.
We need you in this fight, and do not give up hope. I fully believe that we can and will win this fight, but it is going to take all of us together. So please join us. Go to endcitizensunited.org, and we would love to have you in this fight with us. And we're going to keep going.
Yes, thank you, Tiffany. I forgot to mention too, because you were a former Topeka City Council member too, the first openly
Yes,
gay public official in Kansas. What's that?
that
What
is
was that
true.
like?
It was intense, and I was young, and so I often look back and think, how did I do that? But it was amazing, and it was I loved serving on the city council. I loved everything from how we were going to fix the roads to how we were going to help our downtown develop. And one of the other things I got the privilege of helping lead and work on was expanding our anti-discrimination ordinance to protect our LGBTQ community. And it was during a time when, obviously we were facing so much bigotry and homophobia and backlash. And it was kind of during the same time as George W. Bush and Karl Rove put the anti gay on the ballots
Yeah.
across the country. So being able to win this fight and win it in a city like Topeka, Kansas, really was inspiring, I think, to a lot of people. And it's just something that I carry with me that I'm really proud of. And we did it by grassroots organizing, right? It was people going and talking to their neighbors and talking about shared values and talking about things like, being judged on the basis of your work, not the basis of who you are and who you were born as. And those values really cut across a whole lot of different belief systems. And so it's an accomplishment that I really hold near and dear to my heart, and that I carry with me as I do the work I do now.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes about your courage, frankly, to come out and be yourself and run as an openly gay person in during a time when that wasn't always looked upon as a good thing. I'm sure you had political advisors telling you, to just keep it on the DL or whatever. So yeah,
I
and
was never
yeah,
I was never in the closet.
that's
I
good.
mean, I came out. I always, to give people context, I came out 2 years before Ellen DeGeneres,
Oh,
and
okay, okay. I mean, well, I came out. I was we're probably around the same era, but
probably
I actually tried to be bisexual for a while, so I figured being like half a
we all
gay.
okay. We all
I even read a book on it. I was like, I got it. I'm very studious, so I was like, I gotta get a book on this shit.
that, that I feel like lasted for like a week, and then I was like, oh no day.
Right, right. That's good. Yeah. So I mean, and that's the other thing. People just want everyone will accept others. We just want the courage. People have courage of their convictions, and
Often
that,
they
yeah,
want people to,
authenticity. Right.
yeah,
That's the word I'm looking for, and
yeah.
that's what attracts people. For they're then that's why I think about like Lindsey Graham. Like, come on. And
Yeah.
others. Poor Lindsay. I don't want him. No,
Yeah.
he's not poor. He should be
No, not at all.
ashamed.
Very
He should be
rich. Very
ashamed.
rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in spirit too. He should be very ashamed. But
Yeah,
I mean, what
for
a
sure.
shame, right? Like to end your life just being a tool of horrible people who hate your guts. I like. Oh, anyway.
Well, for everybody else, don't be a Lindsey Graham and get in the fight.
That's right. Tiffany, it was great meeting you. Thank you for spending all this time with us. And yeah, money in politics is the root of all evil. And everyone, please sign up and Citizens United, get in the fight. We will win. That's how I end my show all the time. We will win. We will win because we're on the
We
right side
will.
of history, decency, dignity, democracy, and humanity. We will win. And but in the meantime, we have a lot of work to do. So,
Yeah.
and I appreciate
Well,
all that you do. Thank you.
well, thanks so much for having me on, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
Let's do it.
All right. Talk to you soon then. Bye bye. All right, everyone. Tiffany Muller, President and Citizens United. What a great woman. I'm telling you, the real deal. And in the fight every single day for what we are fighting for, which is our democracy, a functioning democracy that works for more than just the likes of Elon Musk, who is a monster and a parasite. And probably, I don't know, one of the worst things that ever happened, on top of Trader Trump. It's so bizarre. Where the heck? How's everybody doing? All right, let me do the rounds here. Was that okay? You could see that, right? You could hear that. I was having some issues with the audio myself. Here but I'm sure I would have heard more if I would have gotten some text or something if it wasn't working properly. So, okay, we have about 7 minutes left in the show. Looking at the chat over here, we got a nice chat. I don't know what happened with YouTube. YouTube's looking a little sparse, a little sparse than usual. Not sure why, but I see you guys on Substack and everywhere else. Yes, and thank you. Yes, Tiffany Muller is the real deal. So when you join End Citizens United, you can rest assured that you're being led by someone that's really had a lot of success too in this fight. And I believe, like I've said 10 to 20 times during the interview, that is money in politics is why we're in this boat. And if we got money out of politics, what would happen is Trader Trump, first of all, they would all rush for the exits like the roaches, in the when you turn the light on. That's he'd find another grift. He'd go back to multi-level marketing vitamin scams, or what else? Well, he was cheating on his taxes. He received more money from the American taxpayer than every other single American taxpayer. He declared more losses, and he received the largest tax return because he's a loser. But I do have some good news. I don't know if it's good news. It's just a story. It is, I don't know, it's a sign of the time. Somebody I know posted in my neighborhood that there's this house that has Trump signs on it, Trump flags. They even had a little pond in their front yard, and on the edge of it was like a fake little pond with rocks, and on the edge of the pond they had a Trump Buddha. Okay, isn't that disgusting? Think about that. Trump as Buddha. And my friend said she was walking past it today, and all the Trump signs are gone. They're all taken down. Oh, look at that. Here's the music. We timed that pretty good. So, some of the maggots are waking up, and I wonder what took them so goddamn long. Hold on. Listen, I forgot to tell you in the beginning, Charlie from APS Radio News is a great man who keeps the show going and growing, and he has his own channel, APS Radio News, that has independent liberal voices, not just liberal, but independent voices on it. Myself, for one. Also, Cindy Sheehan is on there. So you could check that out. And Charlie also he runs a radio, an independent radio station that runs classic rock and oldies all damn day. So that's APS Radio. And APS Radio also has a classical channel, which you could just put that on, keep it up on your browser, and listen to the beautiful classical music while we're plotting and working to make this country safe for democracy. Right? So thank you, Charlie, for all you do for this show, for the country, and for the community cats. Charlie also donates shelters, winter shelters for the community cats, and food for them. And this year, believe me, the shelters have been essential to keep these poor creatures alive out there. It's been a rough one this winter. But as we say in my Buddhist practice, I actually practice Buddhism myself with the Soka Gakkai. Winter always turns to spring is the saying, and that is the truth. I'm sure many religions or philosophies have that saying, but yeah, winter always turns to spring. I do believe we will win, just like we were saying with Tiffany. We will win, but we have a lot of work to do, and you don't have to do everything, like Tiffany was saying. You just have to do something. So pick whatever that something is, and let's get going. Let's get to work. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. And we got Tarabuster Fridays this Friday, 8:30 p.m. All right, guys. I appreciate all your support. Please tap that, whatever the heck that is, that QR code. How do I do that? I got to learn how to do this better. This. People say, what's this on your... This is because I have my wrists get all achy from typing, and it's carpal... I don't know. It's carpal tunnel syndrome, but it's also because I'm always on the computer. So it's like pads on my hands. So become a subscriber. There we go. That's better. Right there. Tap that QR code. And that's my Substack. All right, guys? I appreciate everything. All right. I don't even know how to wrap it up. I'm just going to say tune in on Friday. And we don't have a guest yet, but it'll just be us having a Tarabuster, going through the news of the day. And I'll be breaking it down in ways that we all have come to love. All right, kids. I love you. Want to thank Tiffany Muller again. What a great woman. And that's why I'm just so fortunate to be able to do this and meet people like Tiffany. And hi, Michael. I don't know what the hell was going on. I thought I'm looking at the YouTube chat now. I thought the friggin' YouTube was off or something. There was like nobody in the chat. I said, what the hell is happening here? Right? I thought I was disconnected. Yes, will you be on the Fascist Book Club this week? Yes. Last week, Nick canceled it because he needed a rest. So he took the day off. So this week, we'll be back on the Fascist Book Club on Friday. The Anti-Fascist Book Club. What am I saying? Not the Fascist Book Club. It's the Anti-Fascist Book Club, sponsored by Banner and Backbone, and then we'll have Tarabuster at 8:30 p.m. Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened, you guys. All right, guys. Thank you for listening and hanging out. Be safe, be cool, be awesome. Remember, we will win because we're on the right side of history. We're on the right side of decency, dignity, democracy, humanity. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you, Seth. Seth, for becoming a super supporter of the Political Voices Network. Nice. Thank you, Michael and LK Harris. Thank you. And Gary, thank you so much. What the hell? The YouTube algorithm is actively blocking any shows that aren't Nazi. Maybe that's what happened with YouTube today. Because I was like, what the fuck is everybody? Usually we have a very lively chat happening. It was very bizarre. I thought I had fucked it up. All right. I shouldn't curse, but all right. It's 3 p.m. You've all had your coffee. Okay, my friends. I will see you later. I'll see you on Friday. Remember, become a patron, patreon.com/Tara Devlin. Subscribe to my Substack. I give you the marching orders. And I will see you soon.